Thank you for joining us here on Doctor's Nutrition today. I'm Dr. Jim.
And I'm Dr. Janine.
We're going to be talking about something that actually it resonates really, really deeply with many, many people.
Yeah, we're not just talking about the heavy stuff today, though. We are going to explore some of the feel-good natural strategies to help lift those clouds from you and help that depression. Depression is not a very happy topic. It is actually kind of gloomy. So we're going to try to give you some really good natural strategies to help and bring a little bit of sunshine back in your life.
Well, speaking of sunshine, how do we get serotonin and vitamin D with vitamin D?
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
And a little tip. I mean, everybody probably has heard that if you go out in the sun, it does help with depression. But you can't wear sunglasses.
Right.
I mean, people wear sunglasses and it blocks the rays from going into your eyes, which is the part that helps the serotonin. Now, you'll still get your vitamin D because the sun hitting the skin without sunscreen is how you make vitamin D. Now, if you're going to be out for a while, then go out so long without sunscreen, and then you may put on some sunscreen later, but make sure you get 15, 30 minutes a day without sunscreen. You can't be covered up. I have people all the time that say, I'm outside all day in the garden. And I'm like, well, what do you wear? Well, long sleeves, a big floppy hat. I'm like, okay, and they're very low in vitamin D. That's one thing. Going outside does make a difference. That sunshine helps serotonin, and it actually helps vitamin D.
Now, what are some of the symptoms, Janine, of actual depression?
I mean, depression, some people don't even realize they're depressed. That's what I see when I talk to people. They just feel like they say, well, I just don't feel like doing anything. And that's what I hear a lot. And they say, things that I used to like, I don't even care about anymore. And that is a sign of depression. You don't have to feel like completely hopeless. Some people do. But you don't have to feel that way. It can just be that you're really tired and sleep changes, appetite changes. Depression can show up in different ways.
Certainly can.
And I even find in a lot of men that men don't normally say they're depressed. They tend to be angry. Mm-hmm. So even changing moods where you're mad all the time, that could be a sign also of depression and low serotonin.
Right. Now, something that's been researched a lot on helping with depression is something as simple as, we just talked about being out in the sun, but something else, and then something that's also very good for a lot of other things in your body, exercise.
Yeah, exercise, get moving, do something. Laying there, everybody wants to just lay there when they feel depressed. It definitely doesn't usually help.
No.
Being in a dark room, laying around, does not help depression. I would say it's probably one of the worst things you can do for depression. So for one, get moving, get those endorphins going, because that does help.
And another thing is proper nutrition. We see this one all the time. People aren't getting enough of the nutrients, basic nutrients. We're talking about basic stuff. We're not talking about getting into the biohacking or anything like that. We're just talking about some basic nutrients. And that's something that we see constantly.
Right. The way you eat makes a difference. If you put in a bunch of junk, you're going to feel like junk. That's kind of the way it works. But some of the vitamins that are so necessary for helping with depression and keeping you from being depressed, and there's so much research on them. One is B vitamins. And we see a huge amount of B12 deficiency. We used to not see folate deficiency, but we're seeing that as well. So we're seeing a lot of B vitamin deficiencies in general.
We really are. Now, another one, if it's needed, is iron.
Yes, if someone is anemic and iron deficient, it makes a lot of depression.
Yeah, we hear a lot of times somebody will come in and say something, well, they tell me I'm a little bit anemic. I said, well, that's like being a little bit pregnant. If you're anemic, you're anemic. Okay, so we need to get something done because that's
even a little bit of anemia can actually cause big depression.
Big.
Yes. So you got to fix the anemias.
Right.
Whether it is a B12 anemia, an iron deficient anemia, folate anemia, they can all affect anemias.
And it does take some lab work to find that out.
It does.
But it's something that's easy to do. Mm-hmm. We can do that. You can do some simple lab work. If you check your CBC, and then always do an iron panel at least with it. And that way you get to see what your serum iron is, regardless of what's on your hemoglobin. Because even if your hemoglobin, quote unquote, in range, can be on the low end of that range. And if it's even on the low end of that range, and then your serum iron is really low, you got a problem.
Right. Now, another thing that has been shown, has so much research on helping with depression, is omega-3 and vitamin D. We've already talked about the vitamin D, but omega-3 and vitamin D together, huge difference. Omega-3 is deficient in most people that are not supplementing. I can say that from us doing tests that we actually check people's omega levels.
Yeah.
And we check the 6, 3, 9. People are always deficient in 3. The American diet is very high in omega-6 and very deficient in omega-3. So that's one thing that does make a difference. It is not an instant. If you're depressed and you take omega-3, you're not going to feel a difference in a day or two. It may take 2 or 3 months for that one. And everybody needs omega-3 just for the body and the brain to work properly.
And the heart.
Oh, and the heart. You're right. Heart too.
Got to have that heart thing in there.
So that is something that I think most people should supplement omega-3 anyway.
I do, because a lot of times I'll talk with the patient about omega-3s. Says, oh, well, I eat fish. What kind of fish? And they're having to search around in their brain for what kind of fish did I just eat. Well, salmon's one of the few that will give you some a good omega-3s. Some of the cod, things like that. But most people, if they eat it maybe once a month. It's not going to do it. You know, the omega-3s are something we need on a daily basis.
A daily basis.
Yeah, really is.
There's also other supplements that are just specific to depression. And again, we'll always say do lab work so you can maybe see what's going on, know what underlying problems is there, know what deficiencies you have. But there are some just specific supplements that are good for depression. And the one that we probably use the most is 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan. It is a precursor to serotonin, and you cannot take it with prescription antidepressants, the SSRIs specifically. We have so many people that it can make a difference. Now, the good thing about 5-HTP is a lot of your antidepressants make weight gain. 5-HTP is known to help weight loss. And one of the ways it helps weight loss is it keeps you from craving sugar as much. Because a lot of people want to eat sugar in order to try to raise their serotonin. So if you raise your serotonin, you may not crave that sugar as much. So it does help with appetite control, sugar cravings. It helps with sleep. It helps with depression. So it is one that just can make a huge difference, and it works pretty fast is the good thing. You don't have to wait a month or two to see a difference in that one.
If 5-HTP by itself is not 100% helpful, then we'll add something called SAMe, or S-adenylyl methionine. Works great. It's good for the liver too, by the way.
Well, it's good for the liver, it's good for joint pain, and it's good for depression. So, I mean, SAMe's one of those.
How can you go wrong?
Yeah, and I had just last week, I had a lady call, one of our long-term customers, and she just said, I am so overwhelmed, and she was crying, and it was not like her. And I was like, what's wrong? And she said, well, I can't make one more decision. I am tired of making decisions. I am tired of everybody asking me for something. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel that way. And I said, well, didn't you try 5-HTP one time? She said, yeah, I don't think it didn't work well for me. So I said, okay, well, let's do SAMe. She came in like 2 days later, smiling, laughing, saying, I was pretty bad the other day, wasn't I? And she said, but that SAMe, man, it worked in like a day. And I said, it does. And for the people that it works for, I can't say it's 100% for every person, but for the people it works for, it works really well. Now, the SAMe we have is a little bit different. It is actually standardized to 2 different ingredients, not just one, and it's a higher dose. So SAMe, there's a huge difference in products out there. Ours are blister packed because SAMe is very unstable.
I was going to say that's one of the
If it is just in a bottle, it's probably not very stable.
Well, it might have been when they bottled it.
It might have been when they bottled it, but it actually it's very unstable, so it has to be packaged a certain way in order to keep stability.
Yeah.
So we do have a very good SAMe, and it does, for the people that it works for, it works
great.
Amazing.
Now, lion's mane is, if you look at the research on it, great for the brain, great for memory. A lot of people take it for that reason, but it also helps depression.
It does. It helps the immune system, too.
Well, it helps the immune system.
Lion's mane is one of those that probably not the one that we start with, but we add it to a lot of people. If the other stuff is not quite enough, we can add some lion's mane, and it can make a big difference.
Now, our approach, we always start with some lab work, because get the basics out of the way first. That's our concept. You know, we don't want to start out with the neurotransmitter test or something that's going to cost tons of money. Well, let's start with something fairly simple, something you might need, like iron. We talked about iron just a minute ago.
Iron and B12 and thyroid problems make huge amounts of depression.
Right.
And you may even be taking thyroid medicine, and they may say your thyroid is fine. But what we see in a lot of people is their TSH may be normal and their T4 may be normal, but their T3 could be low. So we check all the levels, because when low T3 definitely can make depression. So it's something that we always tell people to start with. Check the lab work. Let's find the underlying problems first, and then we can go to there what might be best to fix it.
Right. Now, if that doesn't work, then we go to something like our neurotransmitter testing, which is a super test, because it's going to check your neurotransmitters that make all the brain work like it's supposed to. And it does it through a urine test. So it's fairly simple to do.
It is. It's a simple
But
test.
it gives you some great information.
It does. And it even does the amino acids that are precursors to the brain chemicals. It checks all the different serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, PEA. It checks your GABA. It checks all of it. So you know what direction to go in, and you're not just guessing and taking a year or two to try different things to see what works for you. So that is a really good test, and we do have it available. So if you have any questions about it, you can just give us a call.
And by the way, you just in case, if you like this, be sure and hit that like button down there and subscribe if you haven't already. Somehow YouTube loves that, helps us keep making more videos. So if you don't mind, doesn't cost anything, just go ahead and subscribe.
Yeah. And we have a consult sheet that you can fill out on our website. And if you fill it out, we'll have someone call you. There's 4 of us at our office. One of us will give you a call.
Right.
And go over your specific problems and specific information, see what testing might be best for you. And then that way we can get to the bottom of the problem and get you back to getting happy again.
Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got some good information out of it, and maybe it'll set you on the right track. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next video.
Yep.